want to thank everyone that put this together. There are a lot of people behind the scenes that do this. Usually at functions like this and political functions, we list a whole who's who of the important people. But tonight I'd really like to maybe start just by saying that everybody in this room is important. Everybody in this room means something, and I get kind of tired occasionally of the ranking structure. When I joined law enforcement, I heard a lot about authority and positional authority. And while I respect it, and I believe that we have to follow it, I also believe it's not a hammer, it's a responsibility. So tonight I'd just like to thank you all coming. You're all important to me, and I would especially like to thank those people that served and set up and did those things and are probably going to help me clean up afterwards. I will say that, hopefully. But I hope you enjoy the food. I hope you enjoy the fellowship, because that's what it's all about. This, I hope, is unlike many other political campaigns. I don't know how to be a politician in the sense that some people know it, and I don't really want to be. I want to be politically savvy because I want to help people. But I am Kevin Jensen, and I am running for sheriff, and I've run with a slogan. And you know, while there are a lot of words that we want to use as buzzwords, I really don't believe in buzzwords. I believe that, like Lance had said, you speak from the heart, and people will forgive you for mistakes. But if you try to pull one over on somebody, if you say what you think they want to hear, then number one, I don't want the job that way, because I want to believe like you believe in the higher order values that got us here. I believe in collaboration. I believe in the idea that, whose kid is that? Is that Tessa? Okay, grandchild number like 3. Thank you. So she's heard me say this before. I practiced it. So. In reality, the higher order values are the reason why I believe we all get along. When I teach at the academy, what I teach about is leadership, ethics, and professionalism. And I've been very proud to teach there, and I'm also proud to teach for South Bay coming up in their management course. And there's some great friends and role models of mine here tonight from there and from my earlier career. And to me, that's what it's about. When you talk about those higher order values, that's what gets us through country versus country, because there are different religions, there are different ethnicities, there are different cultures, but there are some things we can agree on, commonalities, you know, truth, justice, fairness, honesty, trust. And circle that word trust, because I'm going to come back to that one. That's the one that I believe is going to be important for this race. Because I believe in the past, policing has gotten away from what it's supposed to be. Now, there are some fine men and women in law enforcement all over the place, some fine chiefs and administrators. But all too comfortable, all too often, we get a little comfortable with that position, and we kind of take it for granted. And the power can go to the head. So tonight I wanted to start by telling you that I recognize myself, and for many years I have, as to be a selfish person. That's not usually what you want to hear, but I'm going to tell you that the difference is I recognize it. I recognize that my basic instincts are to want comfort, or to want the easy way, or to want sometimes to be lazy and not to go the extra mile. But I recognize that that's a weakness, and so what I do is I guard up against it. Some of you know my background, and I'll give a brief version for those that don't. So my mother was 15 when she met my father, who was 20. His mother had died when he was 12, and he was one of 10 children. My aunt is here, and some of my family here tonight, and they'll correct me because they know. And, you know, my dad had nothing but an 8th grade education. My mom went up to the 9th grade, and my dad came down and was getting in trouble in California. He came down from Canada. They met, fell in love, got married at 15 and 20, had me at 16 and 21. And, you know, that's a recipe for danger if you're not a well-balanced and mature individual. Well, they weren't at that age, and they readily admit it. Went across the country, kind of trying to stay out of trouble. My dad ended up in Louisiana. He found a buddy at a bar who had an unloaded weapon. They went into a hotel and committed an armed robbery. He went to Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola. That at the time it was the worst for the worst, worst of the worst. He eventually did a couple years there. My mom and dad had 3 kids, divorced. Later on, lost track of my father, and my mom went through a couple marriages and she's really well off right now as far as her spirituality, her physical health. She suffers from a few ailments, but she's really made something of herself. She went to work for somebody who gave her a chance at teaching her typing, and went on to Pacific Bell and did well for herself as far as raising some kids on her own and through a couple marriages. My father was reunited with him when I was 14 years old, and I was a little nervous. He had changed. Eventually, I'm getting the short version here. Eventually, I realized that he and my aunts and uncles had all given up a kind of a lifestyle that had come from dysfunction at the way that they were raised into taking responsibility and choosing a different path. And so for me, up until the age of about 14, 15, I felt pretty dysfunctional. I had friends. Went to more schools than grades, so I was always kind of a new kid and everything. But you know, you kind of either get to be a joker or a comedian or very fast, and I tried all of those. So at some point, I fell in with a group of people at 14 and 15 that helped me make better choices. I fell in with another family. My father had 3 more children through another marriage, and met my stepmom, and we were raised until I was 17 together, and then I left, went to work, went to a year of Bible college, and then I met my wife when I was 17, and we were married when I was 19. We have 3 children, 3 adult children, 5 grandchildren, and the reason all that happened is because there were choices that were made by people in my life, and they took me under their wing and they said, there's a better way. Now, if this requires perfection, I will step down right now, because you're never going to find that. There isn't a bit of perfection in me, but there's a desire to recognize my selfishness, to recognize human nature, and to try to improve, and to constantly look at our higher order values to do the right thing. To me, the right thing can be somewhat, different to different people, right? So for me, the right thing is those higher order values that we can agree on. Again, I discussed them before, but let's just take for a second an example of nation versus nation, culture versus culture. They fight over religion, they fight over land, they fight over all those things. It's only when they get to those things that they can agree on at the very top of the scale. I think it's the same way locally. I think it's the same way in human beings. There is a desire in me to do better. When I was 22 years old, 21 and 22, I was working hard in the trades, and somebody saw a sign. My wife actually saw a sign, and she was helping her income, strolling 2 kids down the aisle, selling Avon, and with little booklets. And she told me about it, and at first I had some self-doubt. And at that point I said, you know, there is an opportunity here. And my wife and I prayed about it, we talked about it, and I made a bunch of phone calls. And if anyone's ever gotten hired in law enforcement, you realize there's a series of like 9 steps, tests, background checks, they talk to your neighbors, everything. And at the end of those checks, all I thought was, if somebody will take a chance on me, I'll make it so that they never regret it. I've been trying to live that ever since. You know, my values are, let's do the right thing, let's be fair to people, let's treat them equally. And I mean on the streets as police officers, in the jails as police officers, each other, our subordinates and our superiors. That's something I believed and I've lived. And I think that's the reason why I received so much support. It's not because I was perfect. It's not because I came up with every right answer. It's not because I didn't stumble occasionally. But people gave me the benefit of the doubt because I tried to be fair. So why am I running for sheriff? I'm running for sheriff because I believe that's what we need. I believe when I teach in the academy, I get raw recruits, and they're hungry. I ask them to tell me about a grandfather, an uncle, an aunt, somebody who's been a role model in their lives. And they tell me these stories about where they got their values. And what I try to get them to is, how do people change? How do we get better? I believe it's only one thing, self-reflection that allows us to take a look at ourselves and say, I'm basically by nature selfish. I'm basically by nature somebody who wants my own way, the easy way. But through discipline, through friendships, mentoring, teaching, and a faith in something higher than ourselves, those higher order values, then I believe that we can do better. I believe this county can do better. I believe that we as individuals can do better. And I truly believe that our department, made of fine men and women and administrators, has a lot of room to grow. There are some things we need to change. We cannot give lip service to fairness. We cannot give lip service to service. Service, my motto is serving our community by leading with integrity. And I chose those words very, very carefully. I believe we are a service organization. Way back when, Sir Robert Peel said, the people are the police and the police are the people. We are no different, no better. We are given a responsibility. So nobody ever comes to one of these things without preparing a little bit. And right before I came, I've become somewhat Facebook addicted because I can't stand to not answer somebody's post. And now there's like thousands of posts. So I am going crazy. My wife is saying, turn off the light. It's 2 in the morning. But I hate to think that somebody would think that I didn't think of their post and like it or talk about it. I'm learning I cannot do that anymore. So if you don't get a reply, I'm sorry. But I am done. I will hit those hit and miss. But I read something that I thought was a little bit appropriate, you know. And you may have seen it, but there was a DEA agent that drove up to a farm in Texas. And he got out of the car and he talked to the old farmer. He said, rancher, he says, I'm from the DEA and I'm here to look for illegal drugs. And the rancher says, well, yeah, go ahead, but just don't look in that field over there. And he pulls out from the back pocket his badge and he says, do you know what this is? This is a federal badge. It says I'm a DEA agent and I can go anywhere I want, anytime I want. So the old man apologizes and he goes back to his work. About 15 minutes later, the old guy looks up and he hears screaming, and this man is running for all he's got. And his prize Brahma bull is chasing this man from that field and about ready to gore him. And all the old guy could do is get to the top of the hill and say, show him your badge! Show him your badge! And I thought to myself, that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes we think that that badge, as law enforcement officers, is a little bit more than it really is. It's a responsibility. It gives us the power to back up the law, and it'll give us a brother officer, a sister officer, another agency, another county, all the way till we have enough people to handle that. But it's not something that should be used as a hammer. It's not something that should be taken for granted, that we have power and we don't go the extra mile to reach out to veterans, to reach out to homeless, to reach out to those recidivism revolving door inmates. Because let me tell you, I've had some people in my family who've gone through that place. Not everybody who comes through that door is a person that's to be locked up forever. And those that do will be, and will be tough on crime. But I want to use balance. I want to use perspective. These are words that mean a lot to me. So tonight, if you want to know why I want to run for sheriff, if you want to know why I believe in the men and women of our law enforcement, our own departments, and our local agencies who I have friendships with, the men and women and their chiefs in this whole agency, and retired chiefs that are here and have supported me. It's because I believe we can do better, and we have to get back to basics, and then we have to be innovative and ask other people, what are you doing? I'm not too proud to say, this is working in Des Moines, this is working in wherever, St. Louis, this is working here, and I'll share everything we have too. I have a great passion for this job because it gave me so much. I've given 28 years. My experience has gone everywhere from line staff to escapes. I've gone back to school for my AA degree, my bachelor's degree. I jumped into the bachelor's program before completing the AA because I wanted that at St. Mary's. I went back into the master's program in leadership. So all those things, the education has taught me a lot, that I don't know everything, and keep learning, be a lifelong learner. We as an organization, we as a profession need to be lifelong learners. I appreciate each and every one of you here tonight, and I will need you to get the message out, because it is a little bit David and Goliath. But as people have been telling me, it is time for change. It is time to get back to the basics in some areas and to absolutely exceed them in others. So if you will help me, I know we can get out the word. I don't feel like it's a pipe dream. I feel like it's a reality. I feel like we have right on our side, and though there are some people that are doing the job now who have done right, we can do better. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being here. And I want to thank all of you for what you're going to do in the future too, because we have a fight in our hands, and come June, I believe we can be victorious. Thank you very much. Really love this. Thank you. I'm a rock star tonight. The last thing I'd like to say is that I have made a decision. There are some family things that are happening. There's some family health issues that are extremely serious. And my father has asked me to pursue this race after talking with him, even though he's going through stage 4. So he's a very strong man. He's the man I talked about before who through change and through people believing in him and through a faith, has turned his life around. He is a strong person, but he's fighting a fight that eventually may take him. We're hoping for a miracle. But I will say that the decision I made was to devote my time to my father and to this race full time. I don't believe I can win on nights and weekends, and I don't believe it's fair to the men and women who put a lot on the line to put their names out for me in an elected sheriff's office race where sometimes that can be dangerous. So as of yesterday, I put in my 2-week notice. I am retiring, and I will be devoting full time to my family and to this race. And so I want to tell you that. I want you to be the first to know that I mean what I say. This is going to be a full-time effort, and I'm investing in you, and I hope you invest in me.